Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into something totally fascinating. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're staring down a blank piece of paper or an empty canvas, and you're just paralyzed, completely frozen by infinite possibilities, the dreaded blank page syndrome. Well, today, we're going to literally shatter that paralysis. We'll be looking at a brilliantly structured exercise that practically forces the creativity right out of you. So, the big question we're tackling today is, how do you find a masterpiece hidden inside random chaos? I know, it sounds a bit like a paradox, doesn't it? But we're going to see exactly how imposing just a few really strict constraints can magically transform chaotic random scribbles into intentional, striking geometric shapes. This isn't just a drawing exercise. It's actually a fascinating look at how our brains process information when we're given a highly specific framework.
Section 1, the Design Challenge, Rules of the Game.
All right, to really get a grip on how this core process works, we need to lay down the exact parameters. First up, step 1. Inside a blank box, you draw at least one straight line, one circle, and one curved line, just totally randomly. Step 2, and here's the catch. These elements absolutely must touch two edges of the box's borders. Okay, step 3. Once you've got your chaotic web drawn out, your job is to find and outline exactly 5 distinct designs hidden within those intersecting paths. And finally, step 5. Wait, actually scratch that. Step 4. You transfer those 5 extracted designs into their own individual boxes over in the right column. Now, these 4 foundational rules, they are incredibly strict. But as you'll see in just a minute, these parameters act as the ultimate catalyst to kickstart your brain's inventiveness.
Section 2, Chaotic Foundation, the starting line.
Okay, let's dive right into this initial canvas. We've got a large square on the left and 5 empty rectangular boxes waiting for us on the right. Inside that mean square, our random elements have been dropped in. You can clearly see a straight diagonal line just slashing right through the middle, the sweeping arc of a large circle across the bottom half, and then another curved line intersecting up near the top left. And notice how they faithfully follow that golden rule we mentioned. They all touch the edges of the box. Now, at first glance, it's just a complete mess of lines. There's zero obvious subject matter here. But hey, that is exactly the point. We have officially laid our chaotic foundation.
Section 3, Hidden Shape, Visual Treasure Hunt.
You kind of have to treat this like a visual treasure hunt. We are mining for hidden geometry right inside this wild wilderness of lines. And boom, here is our very first extraction. Notice how a really distinct shape is immediately discovered down in that bottom left intersection. Using a darker blue pencil, the artist has outlined a super clear geometric form. It's perfectly created by the borders of the square, the sweep of that circle, and the straight diagonal line. Just like that, the chaos starts yielding this highly intentional, striking blue shape. Now, you might be wondering, how do we accurately pull this shape out of the chaos without losing its orientation? Well, we use tick marks. Basically, tick marks are just small double lines drawn to mark the orientation and alignment of a shape during the transfer process. Understanding this little trick is actually a really vital part of understanding how the core process works because it ensures the piece keeps its exact identity when it gets isolated. Now, what's really interesting about this is how that blue shape is perfectly mirrored into box number 1 on the right. Look really closely at the bottom edge of the blue shape in the main square. See that little double line tick mark? And then look over at the transferred shape in box 1. The exact same tick mark appears on its bottom edge. It anchors the shape's orientation. It basically acts like a tiny compass, so the artist knows exactly which way is down when they move the design. It's just a brilliant touch of technical discipline that keeps the whole process grounded. Keeping the momentum flowing, let's jump to design 2. The next section of the canvas is claimed by this bold red outline. The artist has hunted down another distinct territory, and this time it's bordered by the diagonal line, the curve of the circle, and the right edge of the square. They've dropped a red tick mark on the bottom edge and transferred this sweeping, kind of angular shape straight into box 2. It's honestly like watching a flip book. You can just see this empty canvas quickly filling up with these highly structured, isolated designs. And this brilliantly illustrates the continuous discovery process we're talking about. For design 3, check out this light blue shape carved directly out of the center mass. It's just completely suspended right in the middle of our canvas, bordered by the intersecting curve, the circle, and the diagonal line. It's totally unique from the first 2. And once again, the tick mark is placed, and the shape is perfectly isolated over into box number 3. The chaos is just rapidly being organized into these distinct, beautiful little components. Now, as we move on to design 4, notice how the available space is really starting to shrink. And you know what? This forces even more creativity. The artist has to look at the remaining fragments and somehow identify a cohesive form. Here, they trace a green outline up near the top right, capturing a shape that utilizes the top border, the diagonal, and that curve. A green tick mark is applied to the top border, and the shape jumps over to box 4. The constraints of that shrinking space are literally doing the heavy lifting here. It pushes the artist to see forms they probably wouldn't have ever imagined otherwise. Finally, we hit our last required design. The fifth and final orange piece is extracted right out of the bottom right corner. It's this jagged, really interesting little triangle with a curved top edge. An orange tick mark secures its orientation, and boom, it's placed in box 5. This final step wraps up the extraction phase, and honestly, it absolutely proves that every single inch of that original chaotic scribble held hidden potential. Section 4, Transferring Designs, Seeing the Big Picture. So let's step back for a second and look at the whole shebang. The crucial point here is really undeniable when you view these two images side by side. On the left, remember, we started with this incredibly intimidating blank box, and we threw in a totally random, unstructured mess of a line, a circle, and a curve. It was pure chaos. But look on the right. Look at what we ended up with. 5 meticulous, fascinating, and completely intentional geometric designs. The transformation from chaos to structured design is visually stunning. And the crazy part? It was entirely guided by our simple little set of rules. Section 5. Ordering Chaos, Psychological Takeaway. Which brings us to the core psychological takeaway here. Why is this specific process such an incredibly effective tool for artists, designers, or honestly anyone trying to solve a tough problem? Well, the big takeaway is this. True creativity thrives inside constraints. Think about it. When you're faced with a totally blank page, having limitless options can be absolutely paralyzing. But by forcing yourself to draw random lines, ensuring they touch the borders, and demanding that exactly 5 shapes be extracted, you completely remove the pressure of having to invent a subject out of thin air. Those strict rules are exactly what freed the mind to find order in the madness. You aren't creating a shape from nothing. You're discovering a shape that the constraints have already provided for you. It completely shifts how we approach the entire creative process, turning anxiety into this really fun game of discovery. So I'm going to leave you with a provocative challenge to ponder for your next project. When you impose constraints on yourself and draw your own random lines, what shapes will you find hiding in the chaos? Seriously, grab a pencil, set some strict rules, and go conquer that blank page. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for the order in the chaos. Catch you next time.